Hello, YouTube. This is the Galley La Podcast with your host Akainu Fanboy and Geboss, and today we're going to be reviewing Chapter 1039, the main attraction. So we started off here with Momo and Onigima, and it's just kind of like another checkup thing going on here. And what I find interesting is we don't see Zunisha. Zunisha, man. Okay, but yeah. Yeah, we don't see him anywhere, which is kind of interesting. You would think like a big landmass like that would be visible in this line of sight. So it seems they're still a good point away at this point, and which is kind of interesting because Oda just kind of left that off to the side. He ended that chapter. I think it was about 2 chapters ago. That was the last panel we saw. So that's still kind of going on in the background somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Momo says, is asking, is someone calling for me? So I think, because he can hear Zunisha. So I think that's Oda telling us that Zunisha is going to play going to come into place in Onigishima's, how it's going to rest safely. Although I have another theory later on in this chapter, but we can go into that later.
All right, and then we get to the good stuff where you see a new attack from Kid, which kind of like a horned creature basically that we saw at the end of last chapter, and Big Mom took some pain, and they have their trash crew members pretty happy, and she does look pretty damaged from that attack, and that wasn't even Kid's finisher too.
Yeah, she. Her arm is broken, and just think of the amount of damage that she's taken, and we don't see any outward sign of pain. Like going back to Whole Cake when she clashed with Luffy in Gear 4, and that did nothing.
Yeah, so Kid's attack is stronger than Gear 4 Boundman at this point.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy to put it, and that's not even his finisher attack.
Yeah.
Either. So it is really interesting, and I do kind of like the back and forth dynamic between Law and Kid. We saw a little bit of it before, but it is really cool to see that dynamic carried on throughout the fight. But it is interesting how she's even getting rid of more of her own lifespan, Big Mom, to heal up and everything. Which is, broken ability when you think about it. I guess we could assume that she, at borderline 100% health again, in some sense, or did she just fix her arm, you think?
It kind of looks like she fixed her arm, but from what I was looking at, it doesn't look like she gave up her own lifespan, but she took some of them from her homies, probably. That's what it looked like to me. But yeah. although she is bringing it out of her own palm, so maybe not. Mm-hmm. Maybe it is her own. But it's interesting to see that she's kind of taking Law more seriously than Kid, because she specifically calls out Law's ability.
Yeah, and I think it's a unique ability where I think kind of where you could get by the defenses, it kind of. Once you attack the interior, it allows the exterior defenses to kind of draw back a little bit, essentially. And it's an incredibly hard attack to dodge. And so, she kind of brings out her own blade with Prometheus, Napoleon, and it makes it into the Master Saber. And she basically destroys Kid's junk and everything like that. So it is kind of interesting, though. I feel like Big Mom and Kid have similar powers in that they use their surrounding stuff to attack, essentially.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I feel like this fight is better paced than the other fights in Onigashima so far. Mm-hmm. In terms of what's all happening and just the dynamics of everything, because as much as we like Zoro and Sanji, they're just kind of do the same thing over and over again. They just slash and everything. But this is a lot more creative, I feel, on Oda's part.
It is, and then you also get like this cool dynamic with you get to see more kids' abilities with the assigned too.
Yeah.
So, and then you also have more of the dialogue coming in where you get this tension of the new versus the old generation too. Like, you know, you were still drinking your mother's milk, and we had ruled for decades now. And so it is kind of, yeah, one, it shows like Kitty's more of an intelligent fighter in this chapter too, which we needed to see a lot more of, you know. And Big Mom's still taking those hits, you know. It's kind of crazy. And she felt the need to like grab that tower to like block the hit. You know, while like in the past she's just like, yeah, hit me. What are you gonna do? You know, I don't even have to dodge, you know. And she actually looks like genuinely afraid. So it's interesting. I don't know. To see a Yako act this way with Captain Mid, you know, who's been getting so much slander.
Maybe we have to retire that nickname.
Yeah. I mean, there's not that many characters that have made Big Mom look like that.
Yeah. I mean, not even Luffy.
Yeah.
But yeah, because, I mean, when she does flip around to block that attack, that's the attack that broke her limbs before, so it makes sense that she's more afraid of it than last time.
Yeah, and especially he was, like, aiming for her face, it looked like, too.
Yeah.
So that would have been F's in the chat right there, and I think, so... And then she basically forms this new attack where it's Mother's homing cannon, or like Mother's Misery, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And which I like the design. It looks really cool.
It looks like her skinny form, kind of. It looks like her slender form, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a nice combination of everything, and yeah, you know, it has a good visual appearance too. I like how the art is on it too. But then, like, as soon as she tries to get this attack going, Law comes in, you know, which is just really awesome too.
Yeah. I mean, we've been kind of discounting the effect of like just throwing buildings with Law's ability, but it seems to be doing something.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Just casually just tossing this shit, you know, and. With her defense already down too, like, so I remember in Dressrosa, I don't think Law was really throwing buildings, but it was more like parts of the bridge.
Yeah.
Where those big bull sharks fish were at, and so and also like Doflamingo was at like 100%, and Law was tired, so he was able to just kind of slice that stuff up. Big Mom here, she's fighting two opponents, and she's like more tired now and everything, so. Taking a building is like not as easy, you know, and which is a nice lead up to his finisher.
Yeah, this is crazy because he does his awakening attack and it goes all the way through Onigashima onto the Wano mainland itself.
I was shocked when I saw this. I was absolutely shocked. I think there's very few characters that have done a feat like this.
Yeah.
Just this scale of damage.
Yeah, and I mean, just for reference, it shows like Yamato in the very bottom of Onigashima. It goes right past her too. And, I mean, we've kind of seen this level from Law before with his when he cut the Punk Hazard Mountain with Virgo.
Yeah.
But do you think that was part of an awakening or no? Or was it just a giant room?
I think that was just a giant room. Maybe it was just like a precursor to this, but because that seemed more a giant room. This is more like he's extending his sword, you know. But it's not. It is actually like cutting through. It's not slicing. It's like it's doing physical damage to the surrounding environment too. So it's a little different than Rim. And yeah, she's still kind of complimenting them, like, you guys have got guts, and she's like beating the shit out of him with the hockey coating.
Yeah,
you know, just take it in.
Yeah, because Law's Yeah, he's taking hockey punches from Big Mom, which is, in his state, is amazing at this point.
And he's still able to get off that attack and just. That was crazy. Like I said, everybody was saying Law had stamina issues looking back at Dressrosa, which he did. Now he's like completely overpassed his limits. And it's definitely a big boom. I mean, she's not looking too good after that. Honestly, I think that's the most pain we've probably seen her in, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
The blood splatter, the just pure look of pain. It is such a contrast to how we saw her in Whole Cake, where it was just impossible. It was just a boss that you just ran away from. There's nothing you could do.
Yeah. But I mean, you see the damage that Law does just to the ground. That he punctures. It's just a huge crater. And
yes,
and it's a straight hole through Onigashima now. So I know last week we were kind of talking, or do you want to finish up with the fight?
Well, I'd say like one more thing I want to bring across, like with the world government and everything, like they were trying to figure out what was the fruit they were trying to rename and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, this is potentially the fruit they're talking about, but we also know the government wanted this fruit as the immortality. But shit, just look at the damage power output right here too. It's like a very dangerous fruit, you know. And I think Lost Fruit is just easily one of the best in the series, you know.
Literally OP.
Literally OP. Like, look what he's doing to Yonko right now. It's insane, you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say like Kid and Law are a lot closer to Luffy after this chapter than I think a lot of people initially thought.
I think so too.
Like, and I want to keep on emphasizing this. Very one is like, they have not been KO'd once this entire arc. Okay, Luffy hasn't, Zoro has. They have not been KO'd at all. Like, that needs to be emphasized. Like, they're about to. Well, maybe I don't want to like over jump the gun, but it looks like the appearance they're about to defeat a Yonko. I'm just gonna put that there, but maybe we should talk about Kid before we get to that topic.
Yeah, and then Kid comes in with his huge rail gun. Which people have been wanting him to do this, I think, since the time skip, since they've seen him.
Yeah.
People have been clamoring for him to do something like this, more so than just punching people with a lot of metal.
It's a nice change of pace, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's. It's just a really cool attack that he does. And now, like Big Mom says, "Who do you think I am? I'm Big Mom." And then he just shoots her.
Yeah, he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know why, but this like felt more epic to me because, I mean, we see the beams from Pacifistas and Frankie and Queen. But this, I don't know why, this attack just seems cooler for some reason. Well, maybe it's just because of the next panel, Big Mom's just obliterated again.
Yeah.
You know? But no, I mean, I'll give it some credit. Like, it looks good, and we don't even know if this is Kid's finisher. He didn't say it was, like Law did.
Oh, I would think that this is his trump card, because he was saying, I think earlier in the chapter, he was saying something about his trump card.
Okay, yeah, I had a hard time telling if that was Law or Kid saying that, though. I think they were, like, arguing back and forth, but yeah, I could be wrong with that.
No, I think that's Kid that says something about his trump card. And then Law's like, oh, what comes after the bullet attack? A hippo or an elephant?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that interaction.
Yeah, I know, yeah, it's kind of, like, interesting, because an indirect reference to Luffy, who has all these like name animal attacks too.
Oh,
like,
I didn't even
give it the bull.
I didn't even think about that part.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. And I don't know. I like how I think Law's always been looking pretty good, but I'm glad Kid's looking a lot better because the way Oda built him up. I would have been disappointed. I'm not even like a huge Kid fan, but I just would have been disappointed if Oda did all that building up and nothing came of it, basically. And then Law, the thing I like about him where it's saying, your era is over, it's a callback to chapter 690, which was like at the end of Punk Hazard, where Law cut the mountain in half in Virgo. And it's kind of a direct callback, and I'm just going to quickly read this, where Law gives his speech to Virgo Doflamingo. Whitebeard only left his mark on our times. Navy headquarters has bolstered itself with new strength. None of the big players have acted as though they've only been preparing. That war was nothing more than a prologue. Like you've always said, a new age is coming with unmatched power, an age of daring and might. Well, now I've destroyed the gears and no one can turn back. So it's interesting how Law's being like, yo, this era is completely over. And it's kind of completing what he said back in Punk Hazard, which is the start of the Yonko saga, too. So I think that's really cool. And what I do find interesting, though, where he says none of the other big players have acted as though they've always been preparing. And I think that's a really good call out for basically Big Mom and Kaido. They never really grew, they just kind of hit their ceiling. And they both blame, like, let's say Kaido blames Yamato and the Big Mom blames, like, Pudding and Chiffon for why they aren't the king of the pirates, basically, you see someone like Blackbeard, who he's technically a part of the worst generation, right? So he's a part of the new era. And he's, like, always going. He's a cheater, but he's always, like, working really hard to get ahead. And then when Law was saying Navy headquarters has bolstered itself with new strength, and we haven't really like seen it as much, but it's like heavily applied that Akainu's taken the Marines to a new level. So Akainu and Blackbeard are suspected to be like the final potential end of series villains too. So it's like those two are kind of above the rest when it comes to the power structure, basically. And then the Supernova are going to come to rip out people who don't deserve to be in power anymore, which is Big Mom and Kaido.
Yeah, that's a good reading of that. I don't have much to add to that.
It's just like the speech has always like stuck out to me, like out of the series. I thought it was just one of my favorite scenes, and it's just Big Mom is just a fatty eating but in her whole cake eyelid, and then Kaido just got drunk and Wano Kuni. They just kind of they gave up. And now these new guys are going to come in to rip them down. Kind of like how Blackbeard ripped down Whitebeard indirectly.
Yeah. And I mean, it looks like they were starting to do some type of plan when they teamed up. Big Mom and Kaido were going to join forces, and what were they going to do again? It's been so long.
Destroy the world.
Yeah.
I guess destroy the world,
Yeah. But by that point, their ambitions were overtaken by the new people.
It is interesting when you look at the speech, though, the people where he talks about the new generation, it's only Kid, Hawkins, Apu, Law, and Luffy. Those are the only ones that are shown in the panel. So that's Oda, like, even setting up more of a parallel, too, for, like, the speech is more directly in reference to Big Mom and Kaido getting taken down. Oh, and Big Mom's the other one in the panel too. And so we weren't shown a Kaido's face at this point. That's why he's not in here.
Yeah. I mean, it was, but it ended up looking nothing like him.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's definitely a surreal chapter. I would say to see. I mean, okay, let's just ask you this: do you think she's down?
I think she's down for this arc. She's going to show up later, I feel. And that's what I was talking about with there's the perfect hole that she can fall down into from Law's attack and have her out for the rest of the arc. But she could survive that. Or like we were talking about last chapter review, how she might run into the CP0 agents who could potentially have the connections to her past, because she's going down right now. So those are potentially the two outcomes, but I think she's done for the arc now, because like we were talking about, last chapter was called Lawn Kid versus Big Mom, and then this chapter she got defeated. I don't see her getting back up after this.
I wouldn't say strictly speaking she's KO'd. I think she's gonna be in a really wounded state, in such a wounded state where there's gonna be some random crazy event, either the CP0 agents being related to her, or just some random ass shit's gonna happen, because that's always with Big Mom, which is then gonna lead her to get completely taken down, basically.
Yeah.
Because that's just how Oda's always treated her, you know. So I feel like something random's gonna happen, which is then in fact gonna take her out, basically. I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's just too crazy just for 2 supernova to take her down.
Yeah.
That's it. Because, okay, I'm sorry, we're gonna bring in the power scaling. People were saying 2 admirals were needed to take down a Yonko. What we're looking at right here, it's just gonna take 2 supernova to take down a Yonko. That's pretty controversial when you think about it. If she is in fact down, okay, for the record. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
And
I think Big Mom's like that much weaker than the others. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think all her damage came from Kid and Law, because she didn't get that damage on the roof.
Yeah, I mean, Law was the only one that hurt her on the roof.
Didn't he do like Gamma Knife? No, he did Gamma Knife on Kaido.
The shock.
The counter shock.
I'm blanking up. Yeah, counter shock. There you
go.
So, if anything, Law can look more impressive because they were fighting Kaido too.
Yeah.
You know, again, no KO. Dude, I don't know. She can't be down, or else like it's really gonna mess up the power scaling when you think about it. You know. I don't know. I don't think she is going to be down for that reason. I mean, I still think it would be funny if she did, because it would just be funny, and it would be super controversial. But I don't know. I can kind of... Maybe she's just weaker than the other Yonko. I don't know.
Maybe. But I'd also like to bring attention to the front cover of Shonen Jump, which has Luffy and Kaido on it. And the taglines are "The War That Tears Down an Era, Wano Arc Climax."
Wow.
So it looks like we're going to see the end of Wano within I would say in the next 10 chapters. At least.
And maybe she is knocked down then, if we're going to be going that quick.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
We'll know next week, because no break.
Yeah, the community is going to be a war. They're just going to be hitting each other with clubs over this.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many people are going to be upset by how this played out with Big Mom. We're fine with it. But I can feel that people don't respect like Law and Kid's strength. Saying that it's poor writing or they were given too big of a power jump or whatever.
And I think just having these two as a combination is a very deadly combination, though. You know?
Yeah.
Like, and I think people emphasize that gap so much with Luffy that it just doesn't work with their headcanon, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But really, like I said, they've kind of been this impressive, I'd say, this whole time. And I mean, a lot of people have Zoro over Kid and Law, and I don't see how you can make that point anymore. Like with, Zoro scarred Kaido. Now look at this. You know, this is a lot more than a scar.
Zoro had a hard time taking care of King.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of a yikes.
It is a yikes, you know, and especially when all 3 of Kaido's commanders were like shaking when they saw Big Mom all chained up eating, you know, at the beginning. This is like, it's kind of crazy, like how strong they are. But maybe Oda's like, okay, these are the two new Yonko.
This is the end game.
Yeah, like these are the new guys, so this is why they need to be this powerful.
The only argument that I have with either of them becoming a new Yonko is their crews are so lackluster and they don't have as much influence that like Luffy has, because Luffy has the whole fleet. He's already taken down like the like 2 warlords. He did the whole thing at Marineford. He's already infamous. I mean, these guys are infamous, but we don't necessarily know what they're known for. But like all the big world-changing things kind of happen around Luffy.
And I think that's one thing like Oda could have done a little better with. I mean, he kind of did like, oh, kid went into Big Mom's territory with, you know, and did X, Y, and Z. And I think, yeah, I agree with you. But I think Kid has the potential to get a lot of new crew people after this arc, basically, because he like took down Big Mom. You know, that's a feat. Right there. And then Killer could kind of be like the more like smart one to build up the empire and all this stuff in the territory, you know. And then there is that theory, which I still think is a viable theory, is that Law might actually be a Marine. He might actually be a part of Sword.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting theory.
And I'm still convinced Buggy's going to be one of the Yonko at some point. I think Oda's just going to do it for trolling. Like, it's just how he's going to do it.
By the end, yeah.
Yeah, so... I don't know, and... I don't know, maybe with Law, he potentially dies this arc. Well, then again, no, because they're kind of building up where he wants to know more about the Void Century. You know, which... If he was a Marine, then you can kind of build that up a bit too. Those plot lines kind of overlap a bit, but yeah, I'm really curious to see what Oda does with these two.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
definitely
sorry. No, speaking of the Void Century, we still don't know anything about the Poneglyph in Wano. Yeah.
Well, maybe Big Mom will find it because she's gonna blast off into the surface at this point, and maybe she'll like find it there.
Yeah.
You know,
it's just out in the open.
Yeah.
But continue what you were saying.
No. It's just interesting. Like, I think the community's expectations were really low for these two, and I think Oda's just like, no, I'm going to fulfill Law with that 690 speech at Punk Hazard, and I think Kid's getting fulfilled through when he said, I'm going to take down Kaido, like with Luffy, and then also Killer was hyping up Kid not too long ago either. You know? So it's kind of come, you know, I think Oda could have built up to this point a little better, you know. I think they could each kind of show them some more love. So it would have seemed less dramatic, I think, this boost. But at the same time, I do enjoy all this, and I don't really have an issue with it. Yeah.
I do have one question. Do you think that Kid is going to go to being like a major rival for Luffy after this point, or do you think he's going to be more of an ally?
I think it's kind of hard because it depends how much time we have in One Piece, you know. I can't really see him. Well, so then he'll have Law and Kid theoretically as allies, right? So it just doesn't really feel that natural in a way. And I think Kid could kind of be more like the Whitebeard Roger dynamic, but be a little bit more hostile, I think, you know? Maybe Shiki's a better example. But, yeah, Shiki Roger, sorry. And so I think my issue is, like, Luffy fighting Kid. I don't know how much time we have for that in the series, to be perfectly frank. Because we still have Shanks and Blackbeard and the world government and Elbaf. So we have to hit all those storylines too.
Yeah, still with all people still say Elbaf's gonna happen.
I mean, it doesn't look like Big Mom's gonna be a part of it at this point, you know.
I mean, she could be, but Who knows?
Oh, maybe she gets blown through the island and she just lands on the Big Mom pirate ship, and then they just take her somewhere else. You know, I don't know, really. It's kind of hard. Like, you know, I do agree with the sentiment is like the Yonko need to die. You can't just have a Yonko laying around at the end of the series, you know? It takes away the excitement. Because when it feels like Luffy's really getting destroyed by the world government, it's like, oh, maybe Big Mom's going to show up and just take out an admiral or something. You know, it doesn't... I feel like they all of them have to be dead. Like Whitebeard, basically. For the old era to be officially dead and for the new era to take over.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to turn out like Naruto where he turns all his villains into allies and then they die.
Yeah. And One Piece is a lot different like that. So... Yeah. But yeah, overall, do you have any more closing thoughts? I thought this was a pretty fantastic chapter.
Yeah, I would say that this is probably one of my favorite chapters, if not my favorite, of Onigashima so far. I felt like just the pace of the chapter and the action and everything, and I really like this chapter.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's one of the few chapters where it's just nothing but action, too. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, anyways, everybody, have a good weekend. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe, and we will see you soon. Have a good one. Peace.
See ya.